So he was in a good place to make whatever decision, the top of his game. Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. Want to know what comes next?
That he belongs up there on Mount Rushmore. Lincoln and Joe Biden.
But you got Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Nancy Pelosi wants to put Joe Biden on Mount Rushmore. She actually said that. And she still has a job. She's still one of the most powerful people in the United States government. Oh, my goodness. Welcome to Monday. It is the Chris Plant Show. Just a couple more episodes without Mr. Plant. He returns on Wednesday. It's Mike Opelka sitting in once again for my friend Chris Plant. And what a Monday it is. The 5th of August. Technically 3 months until the election of the next president of the United States. 91 days and change if we're counting exact number of days. But today is August 5th. November 5th is election day in this country. Although there are some parts of the country where people start voting in September. There are several states that vote in September, a bunch that vote in October. And then there are those of us who vote normally in November. But the Republicans are waking up and saying, hey, maybe, just maybe we should be banking votes like the Democrats do so that we don't wake up on Election Day already so far behind we don't have a chance. I think that's a good idea. Donald Trump said too big to rig is the idea. Too big to rig, that's the game plan. So many things to cover today. I said the world's kind of on fire or teetering on some kind of a breakdown. We were told on Friday that it looked like Iran was going to direct some kind of a retaliatory strike against the state of Israel after Israel responded to the murder of 12 children by Hezbollah. And then the weekend went by and there were just a couple of skirmishes. We did not have the massive retaliation response that we heard about expected to come from Iran or its proxies. And yet we're told it could happen any minute now. And I wonder if there's a bit of fear porn being peddled here. Joe Biden, he's currently still the president of the United States, if you're keeping track. Joe Biden back at the White House from another weekend at the beach. He wasn't supposed to come back until late today. So he's back and reportedly headed to the Situation Room. We will see what happens. We will pray for peace. We will hope that the Iranians will realize, should they decide to launch some kind of massive attack, that the friends of Israel, the allies of the state of Israel, the allies of freedom and liberty and democracy will unleash hell. There have been some missiles that have been rockets that have come into Israel, and the Iron Dome has so far intercepted them, which is good. That's a good thing. So we're keeping an eye on that. And when we left here on Friday, there were a couple of things that outraged us. A couple of things. One of which was the deal that had been struck with the plotters of September 11th and the murderous terror attack on this country that would have given them a life in prison and no chance at the death penalty, no trial. And then late Friday, we heard that actually there was accountability that raised its head within this administration, and the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, actually fired the woman who gave the okay on that deal and said, I'm reneging on this, and we're bringing the death penalty back into possibility. So that was a good thing. And it's probably the first time in forever that I could say that the Biden administration did the right thing. They actually undid a bad idea and reinstated the possibility of the death penalty, the trial, And I'm just wondering if it's ever going to happen. These guys may die in Gitmo before anything happens. So that happened on Friday. And then we had another tough day in the financial markets on Friday. We talked briefly about the bad jobs report that we got. It's not looking good. The American economy appears to be teetering on very rocky ground. Intel firing 15,000 people. We heard that Warren Buffett, one of the richest guys on the planet, Warren Buffett is selling off a lot of his Apple stock, and he's sitting on cash, like $240 billion in cash. Nice problem to have, Mr. Buffett. And then we get the news that halfway around the world in Japan, their market tanked. I think it was down 12% at one point. They stopped trading. And that was in response to our market. Now, our market, I guess, is getting ready to open up, and that's not looking too good either. So we have a teetering economy, a tenuous situation halfway around the world with Israel. Oh, by the way, the Houthis, yes, they hit a container ship, a cargo ship, with a rocket. And they also reportedly took down an American drone in the region that was there to kind of help keep an eye on things. So while we have a president who appears to be absent, a vice president who doesn't know much about anything, and we'll play you that clip of Kamala Harris, and she's getting ready to announce who her VP pick is going to be, because Kamala Harris over the weekend reportedly secured enough delegates, never mind that nobody voted for her. She secured enough delegates to be the nominee for the Democrats in their convention coming up. She has not announced her vice presidential nominee yet. She's supposed to be in Philadelphia tomorrow, but so is J.D. Vance, which is kind of interesting. So we have many, many things to talk about in the world of our political stories. We also have other stories. We're keeping an eye on this Hurricane Debbie coming ashore and threatening pretty much about the eastern third of the nation with a lot of water. And I'm always saying, be prepared. Try and be prepared. But we also have Olympic news to cover. The weird story of what appears to be someone with X and Y chromosomes but presents as a female continues in the boxing world and the Olympics. The Americans overnight tied China for the gold medal count, and then China pulled ahead today a little bit, but we caught them, and it looks like we should have a pretty good day. The fastest man in the world is an American. The greatest golfer on the planet is an American. One of the best swimmers in the world is an American. So there's a lot of American sports prowess on display in Paris. Although there's still a lot of concern about people swimming in the Seine River. And I wonder if we're actually going to force our athletes to swim in what appears to be some very unsafe water. Unhealthy water, to say the least. So we're monitoring all of that. And in the meantime, the Harris administration is trying to figure out how to tell us that the markets are fine, that the American economy is fine, while they're going to tell us that they're the best choice for the election. I wonder if they actually believe that. So many clips I want to get to. The one I opened up the show with today, which I think it's worthy of playing once again. The clip of Nancy Pelosi with Leslie Stahl. Nancy Pelosi did an interview with Leslie Stahl, and there was a brief outbreak of this thing called journalism with Leslie Stahl. That was a really interesting short moment where Leslie Stahl was asking Nancy Pelosi if she was the engineer of the palace coup. It was reported pretty credibly that Nancy Pelosi was one of the people who was telling Joe Biden, you got to get out after that debate and after a couple of other public performances where we saw the cognitive decline of Joe Biden. And so Nancy Pelosi was in the hot seat with Leslie Stahl. But at the very end of the interview, Pelosi was, I guess, trying to get back some of her credibility with Biden, maybe, by saying that he needs to be on Mount Rushmore. Seriously, this was one of the weirdest things I've ever heard come out of Pelosi's mouth, and she said a lot of weird things.
So he was in a good place to make whatever decision, the top of his game. Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. Want to know what comes next?
That he belongs up there on Mount Rushmore. Lincoln and Joe Biden.
But you got Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden.
Yeah. Nancy Pelosi saying, well, you got Teddy Roosevelt up there. And the minute that came out of her mouth, you could almost hear her brain going, no, don't trash Teddy Roosevelt. And then she said, well, you got room up there. You could add Biden. Now, does she want his face on Mount Rushmore, or does she want to put him on top of Mount Rushmore and hope that he just wanders away? You have to wonder. One of the strangest things ever to come out of Nancy Pelosi's mouth. Joe Biden is a Mount Rushmore-worthy president. You would think, because they always talk about Obama being their political god, that he would have been the first one they put up there. And then again, the Democrats, many of the far-left progressive Democrats want Mount Rushmore to be taken down. They would like to see it blasted away. Trust me, they would. That was weird. But Leslie Stahl had actually been doing a little bit of journalism, asking Nancy Pelosi if she was part of the group that pushed out Joe Biden.
There have been reports that it was Nancy Pelosi who orchestrated a coordinated effort to squeeze President Biden to drop out. Please tell us what you told President Biden to persuade him to step aside.
Well, I've never shared any conversations with the president of the United States publicly. No.
It's said that he's furious at you. Is he?
Well, he knows that I love him very much.
I understand that.
Wait. When you say he says he's furious with you, and that person responds, well, I love him very much. That wasn't a yes or no. That was not an answer. That was a dodge. That was a total dodge. Are you mad at me? Well, I do love you. And there's a but in the background. There's a couple more moments here.
Very much.
I understand that you don't want to own this, but it is so well reported that you were the leader of a pressure campaign.
No, I wasn't a leader of any pressure party. Well, let me say things that I didn't do. I didn't call one person. I did not call one person. I could always say to him, I never called anybody. What I'm saying is I had confidence that the president would make the proper choice for our country, whatever that would be. And
now, sidebar here. In the category of plausible deniability, when Nancy Pelosi says, I can honestly say I didn't call one person. Of course she can say that because she has people who place the calls for her. So she can say that and not be lying. We know she met with him. We know she called him. We know she sent notes. It's Bravo Sierra.
Whatever that is, we'll go with.
Had you seen a decline in Joe Biden, and did you think he needed to step aside?
No.
No. Next question. It is a truckload of Bravo Sierra. Nancy Pelosi doesn't need the money, but if she needed another gig, she could be in the fertilizer business quite easily. So much to get to today, so many stories, so much fun from the weekend. Donald Trump at a rally in Georgia in the same venue that Kamala Harris was in as well. He said some things that angered some people, some things that inspired people. J.D. Vance was there. We have some of that. Interesting things from Justice Gorsuch on with Shannon Bream yesterday, a host of topics, and a shocking story of how the left is trying to, well, I think they're trying to destroy Tulsi Gabbard. It's a really wild story that really no one's covering. And you're welcome to join us as well. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. It's Mike Opelka once again in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
You're listening to The Chris Plant Show.
It is The Chris Plant Show on this Monday, August 5th. We are 3 months officially from Election Day. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. And boy, oh boy, do we have a buffet. An overloaded buffet. It really is a golden corral of stories today. Maybe it's a higher-end buffet. I don't know if there is a higher-end buffet. But we have so many things to get to and try and include you as well. And thank you for all being there. Plus, I watched a lot of Olympics this weekend. And my wife and I were going back and forth about the beach volleyball. She's not really happy that the beach volleyballers appear to be wearing the tiniest bikinis ever, while the men just wear shorts. She doesn't think it's fair. But we'll get to that in a little bit later. Some of you checking in already. Let's check in with line one, Mark in Landover Hills. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Always good to see you subbing for Chris. Talk to Jasmine. Man, it's good to hear your voice, Mike. You do a great job, buddy.
I appreciate you being there, and I believe you said kind words, but I have to let Jeff Wolf in the studio know we have a problem understanding the phones. They're not as clear as we had anticipated they would be. So, Mark, I'm not going to be able to take your call, and I don't know if we're going to be able to take anybody's calls today.
Is that any better,
we're not going to be able to understand you. Sorry, you're going to have to put them on hold, Jeff. We have a technical problem that we're going to work on and see if we can fix it. If we don't fix it, well, we'll deal with it. That's the way things are. It could be Debbie. Hurricane Debbie is already messing with us. Hurricane Debbie's turning out to be a bit of a Karen. But I will address one of the questions that Mark had brought up, that the Democrats are being fed to the wolves now. Yes, by their own kind. They are turning the wolves on themselves. And we will get into some of that. Even though they're trying to go out there and pretend as if everything is normal. It's not normal. It's hardly even close to normal. Normal is not even on the same street as most of the Democrats right now. Like I said, we have a boatload of things to keep our eyes on, and we will do that. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
This is The Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show. My name is Mike Opelka, sitting in for my friend Chris Plant. Once again, he should be returning Wednesday. I imagine he'll be ready to go, raring to go, especially after all the things that we've witnessed in the past several days. Things are really on the edge. And I was watching some of the updates across the cables, as they say, the cable news outlets. During the break, we do have some aggression, some rockets headed into Israel. Thank God the Iron Dome system appears to be working and holding. And this might be a one and done, as they say, that the Iranian government can say, well, we responded, and now it's over. We got our retribution. But there are those that are concerned that Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis are then going to unleash a much broader attack on the state of Israel, which would certainly ignite Israel and its war machine to go after Iran directly. A lot to be concerned about. And then, as we mentioned earlier, because of last week's bad economic report in this country, where the jobs number showed the weakness that, frankly, a lot of the economists like E.J. Antoni from Heritage has been ringing the bell saying, hey, we got a problem in our economy. All of these jobs, they're Bravo Sierra. The jobs that we're seeing are part-time jobs, and it's because people need 2 and 3 jobs in order to cover their expenses. Inflation has been such over the past 3.5 years under this administration, and wages have not kept up with inflation, that people have to do more to make ends meet. And as such, we have seen a massive spike in part-time employment, as well as native-born American jobs have diminished by 1.2 million, while foreign-born workers have picked up 1.3 million jobs. That's not good for any economy. And so after that report rolled last week, we saw a decline in the stock markets, in both in the NASDAQ, the very tech-heavy market, and the Dow Jones Industrial Averages. And there was great concern. And over the weekend, it hit around the world. And this morning we saw it hit in Japan as their market tanked. And now as the American stock market opened up 7 minutes ago, we're seeing a 1,100 plus point decline in the Dow Jones. That's not good. That is not good. It's not good for the world. It's not good for anybody who's got a 401k. And the fact that we're not hearing much from the administration about this, I know they're focused on the attack on Israel at this point, but there should have been somebody paying attention. And it's not the old lady who eats the mushroom soup when she goes to China and gets the magic mushroom soup. It's really disturbing. I'm nervous for my country. I'm nervous for our economy. Our economy was much stronger, and I do think that has to be a major campaign point for Donald Trump going forward. Our economy was much stronger 3 years ago. Our economy was much stronger. Even coming out of the pandemic, Donald Trump said it in Georgia over the weekend. He said that when he handed the reins over to the Democrats, and let's face it, yes, there were some arguments about whether or not the election was legit. A lot of us still have many questions that we would like answered. But there was a peaceful transference of power. And when it was handed over, inflation was at 1.6, 1.8%. Gas prices were $2.39 a gallon. They're still, in my neighborhood, $1 higher. That means every 20 gallons of gas you buy, you spend another $20. That's easy math. If you buy 20 gallons of gas a week, that's $1,000 more out of your pocket every year. And a lot of people need more than 20 gallons a week. So the economy and these chickens are coming home to roost. And it is all under the Harris-Biden administration that this is happening. The odds of a recession are going up, and people are noticeably concerned, as they should be. Noticeably concerned. We'll keep an eye on this. We'll monitor this. I have some calls out to a couple of my friends who are economists, as well as I said, E.J. Antoni, who you should follow on Twitter X. He's a guy that blasts through everything and puts up great graphs to help you understand on Twitter X. And he's the guy who can help us. Now, we may see something happen. We may see an emergency rate cut. And there are folks on CNBC who are out there saying, we need an emergency rate cut as soon as possible in order to get things going, to get the economy stabilized. We'll see what happens. I'm sure there are all eyes on the markets today. So we will keep an eye on that as well. I do have so many stories to get to today. There was some incredible stuff yesterday on the Sunday morning talk shows. One of the more interesting things happened yesterday when we saw a Supreme Court justice talking with Shannon Bream. And Justice Neil Gorsuch was on Fox News, of course, and talking with Shannon about Joe Biden and his plans for the Supreme Court. It was fascinating to me because you don't often see Supreme Court justices going out and doing very public statements. And while Gorsuch maintained his cool, calm demeanor I think he also sent a pretty powerful and clear statement to not just Biden, because Biden's really not going to do anything. This whole Supreme Court push to either put a code of conduct or term limits or even pack the court, it's all Bravo Sierra. It's all campaign rhetoric so they can talk about it on the campaign trail. But Gorsuch addressed that situation, addressed the fever dreams of the Harris-Biden administration to alter the Supreme Court. Here's what he said.
You're not going to be surprised that I'm not going to get into what is now a political issue during a presidential election year. I don't think that would be helpful. I have one thought to add. It is that the independent judiciary means, what does it mean to you as an American? It means that when you're unpopular, you can get a fair hearing under the law and under the Constitution. If you're in the majority, you don't need judges and juries to hear you and protect your rights. You're popular. It's there for the moments when the spotlight's on you, when the government's coming after you. And don't you want a ferociously independent judge and a jury of your peers to make those decisions? Isn't that your right as an American? And so I just say, be careful.
Be careful. Be careful, Mr. President. He's right. You don't need all this power when you're in the majority because you're already popular. And what they're trying to do is guarantee their majority forever. And that's ultimately the end of this. This is also the argument we make for defending the Electoral College. The Electoral College is one of the greatest equalizers ever created for any government anywhere. We have the Electoral College to make sure that New York and California don't run the whole damn country. If you had no Electoral College, if we chose a president based on the popular vote only, there would never be another conservative president. You would have mob rule. That's what a pure democracy is. It's mob rule. It's a 50-50 plus one vote majority pushes it over the top, and then that group has all the power. Not so when you have the Electoral College that allows the small states to have a modicum of power on the same level, especially in the Senate, when you have 2 senators from each state. See, the left doesn't understand that. They get all crazy when they hear that stuff. I was glad to hear Judge Gorsuch come out and say that. It was a really interesting discussion with Shanna Bream, who's just the smartest person ever. I know she's got competition. So many things that we have to cover today, and we're just having a small problem with the phones. If you're attempting to ring us, Jasmine's working, but we're having a problem channeling them through, and we're working on solving the problem. So if you're calling in, things might slow down a little bit. Just saying. I do want to get to, I think one of the biggest stories of the day is the decline of the Robert Kennedy campaign. Robert Kennedy Jr., who a couple months ago was actually a credible candidate and a possible person in the debates between the Republican and the Democrat choice. He was fighting to get on that stage, and now it seems like he's fighting for his sanity to come forward. So we'll get to that, because there was a story that Robert Kennedy told this weekend. He had to tell it. He was forced to tell the story because it was going to come out in a publication. It's one of the weirder things I've ever heard. It involves Robert Kennedy Jr., a couple of his friends who he claims had been drinking. Well, he said he had not. And a dead bear in Central Park. That's a crazy story. And I also then have to get to a story that is only in one spot right now, and it deserves to be in a lot of spots. It is the story of Tulsi Gabbard and how Tulsi Gabbard is apparently in the crosshairs, and yeah, I'm using that violent language, in the crosshairs of our own government. Tulsi Gabbard, somebody who was elected to the House of Representatives. Tulsi Gabbard, somebody who volunteered to serve this country in the military. Tulsi Gabbard appears to be an enemy to this administration. And so they're coming after her. And the story that is only in one spot right now, a spot that we've talked about in the past, a spot that does journalism, uncoverdc.com, has the story. And we will get into this in great detail. And we have to talk about Byron Donalds, the congressman from Florida. He represents the Fort Myers, Naples area. It is probably the reddest district in the reddest state in the country right now. Byron Donalds, a guy who I thought would have been a great VP pick for Donald Trump. But Byron Donalds was on ABC News this week against George Stephanopoulos. And he went up against George Stephanopoulos yesterday, and Stephanopoulos seemed to be unspooling before our eyes. It was a remarkable 3 minutes. And as I watched Stephanopoulos, I'm thinking, you realize you're not winning this, but he just kept going back. And Byron Donalds he's got a really fast brain. He's a really smart guy. He came out of the banking industry. And he will, wherever he is in the Republican Party, he will do an outstanding job. But yesterday, he was on the Sunday talk shows, and he was on with George Stephanopoulos, not exactly friendly territory. And what he did was a master class in teaching people how to handle liberals. Just great stuff. We'll play it all for you. We'll get to the whole thing for you as well. And Olympic updates throughout the morning as we're, getting closer to the end of the Olympic Games. So much to be proud of with our American team. I'm not going to get into too much of the wokeness. There is a great column from Jonathan Turley about the problem with boxing and people with X and Y chromosomes, which we used to say in science class, if there's a Y, it's a guy. Simple, right? Not so simple in this case. Even the Boston Globe had to put out an apology headline. So we'll get into all of it. It's Mike Opelka. I'm in for my friend Chris Plant. He's on vacation, just another day and a half, right here on The Chris Plant Show.
There's only one Chris Plant. The Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show on this Monday, August 5th. Yes, 3 months from Election Day, although some of you can be voting early. And I hope you will be. We need to bank those votes just the same way the Democrats are banking votes. And boy, oh boy, is it going to be an interesting 90-day sprint. And will we have debates? Will we have presidential debates? That's a really big question. My name is Mike Opelka. I'm in for Chris Plant. My friend Chris Plant on vacation. He will return Wednesday. And you could probably send the Chris Plant Show some questions. I'm sure he's going to be full of stories to share from his adventures. And you've seen on social media some of the posts already. But it never hurts to get your questions in. Thank you for being here. So many of you have reached out during this. I mentioned this story. Three big stories outside of what's going on with the economy today, outside of what's going on in Israel under attack. Obviously, we thought this was coming probably Saturday or Sunday, and it appears it's going on this evening in Israel, mornings here in America. And we'll keep an eye on all that. But I think there's three big stories. I think there's the story, obviously, any story related to our election. Kamala Harris reported to be giving us her vice presidential nominee, her choice, and then she'll be in Philadelphia tomorrow. So will J.D. Vance, oddly enough. J.D. Vance is going to be in South Philadelphia tomorrow, going again right into the belly of the beast. This is what the Trump campaign does. This is who the Trump campaign happens to be. And I think it will scare the tar out of the left. But what about the debates? The debates are kind of interesting. We had a debate scheduled for September 10th. Donald Trump agreed to a debate on ABC News on September 10th, but it was against Joe Biden, and then Joe Biden pulled out. He's out of the debates. And Kamala Harris is saying, well, I'll debate. And Trump said, yeah, let's do it. Let's debate, but let's do it on Fox News. Let's get it on a place where there actually will be some journalism and maybe a little fairness. And we'll see what happens. But Kamala's saying, no, I want to do it on ABC. And Trump put out an interesting statement this weekend. I don't know if you saw it on Truth Social. Donald Trump said, look, we had an agreement for a debate, and it was September 4th, and it was against Joe Biden. And the problem with that, or September 10th, and the problem with that happens to be that I have legal action pending against ABC News. So there's a conflict of interest. And I think Donald Trump has some credible argument there. First of all, you change the player. And second of all, it's ABC News, which he was under attack from Rachel Scott at ABC News last week already. So no shock to me that Mr. Trump would say, I'm not going into there again. I already went into CNN and I got out of there alive. To go into ABC News could be a very, very troublesome situation. So the debate goes on, and there is an incredible exchange, a little comment from James Carville about the debate, and we'll share all of that with you as well. So many things to get to today. But like I said, Byron Donalds yesterday, the story about the attack on Tulsi Gabbard. And we have to get to that story. And maybe we'll kick off the second hour with that story because Tulsi Gabbard has suddenly become public enemy number one for the Democrat Party because she's endorsing Donald Trump. Would they really go after one of their own? Even though she's denounced them now. Yes, it appears they will. And they'll spare no expense. We'll get to it just around the corner. Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.